All right, welcome to today's episode of the Australian Lawn and Garden Podcast. I know a lot of you were really hoping that we got Scag on, and here they are. A lot of you, it's been a growing brand, a lot of interest around it. You've got a lot of new stuff. We're going to talk about this stuff that you've announced recently. And we've got Duncan. Duncan, you're the head of the show, right?
Yeah, that's right, Luke. Firstly, thank you. Thanks for having us on. We appreciate the opportunity. I'm the head of the show. I own International Mowers, who are the exclusive importer for Scag in Australia. We've had the rights here since the early 90s, to be fair, but it's really only in the last probably 7 to 10 years that we've started to grow it, particularly in the last 5 years. The brand's really done some amazing things for us. So we're really proud and pleased to be the Australian distributor of Scag.
What do you think caused, because I'll tell you, I've been in business for 10 years. I'm not the type of person who does a lot of ride-on work, but I've always done a little bit of ride-on work. And I didn't really know what was around completely. It was just what was at the local dealer kind of thing, right? And all of a sudden, like you say, about 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 2019, maybe even 3 years ago, all of a sudden, Scag was everywhere. And I was like, what is this brand? And then you start looking into them. And now that's probably my naivety more than anything. They're massive in America. There's so much range. They're very well known for quality stuff. And I was like, oh, this is fascinating. So 2 things I wanted. One, why did we not know about them for so long? Or did I not know about them? And secondly, why do you think it's grown so rapidly, so quickly?
Yeah, it's a good point. And it's what you say is true. It has grown rapidly. So I don't know if I'll answer it perfectly, but let me give you an opinion on what we did. We acknowledged back about 2017 or 18 that the contractor market in Australia was a significant size and had significant buying power. And then the second thing, so we acknowledged that, and we also acknowledged that we weren't really attracting or offering ourselves to that market in a suitable or enough way. So we deliberately went out and spoke to contractors. We asked them what they want, what they like, what they dislike about their units, what dealers they want to deal with across the country, because it's a dealer-driven platform. And then we responded, in that way. There's a number of different forums that we joined as members in the past. I don't know why, but we just weren't part of them. So we saw the opportunity of contractors and acknowledged that we need to get better at how we work with contractors, and we went about doing it. And it wasn't myself. There's a number of people that work for us, but in particular Robert Shearer, or Rob, that a lot of people know, probably listen to the podcast, know of Rob. He had a big focus, and I remember talking to him probably about the period you're talking about, 2019. And we started to get into the contractor market, and we're doing some forecasting. We thought to ourselves, if this thing goes off, there's huge potential and huge opportunity for us. So that's what we did. We targeted contractors. We targeted good dealers that support contractors. And I don't think the job's finished. We're still there. We still need to keep on top of things. We need to keep maintaining relationships. We need to keep evolving, developing our products. Understanding what the market wants here in Australia and reacting accordingly.
I know this podcast is not about shooting anybody else down, and we've said it in other ones. But what I love about, there's a few things I love. When Rob was on LMCA, right, and there's a few others on LMCA, you would often see him responding to individuals, and it gave this level of human. Making it a brand a human thing, or making it a relatable thing that we weren't seeing from other people. But even the fact that you yourself are the person who's come onto this podcast, because you could send the intern, or you could send it, and you're not the only brand who's sent somebody right at the top for it, but it does show that some of these brands, and you're in that market, do actually care about the feedback of the individual. And they want to, it's like some, I get the feeling it's like it's a penny pusher thing. It's a number cruncher. It's the, how much money are we going to make from this if it's not worth return on investment? And some just go, is it going to bless or serve an audience? And you go, yeah, it will. Let's jump on. So it sounds like you really do care about that human interaction, personal touch?
Yeah, look, we do. It's an interesting point. I mean, we are a small family-owned business, International Mowers, and we're pretty nimble. We've got a small workforce. There's a handful of us here in Melbourne. We've got a Brisbane office as well, but we all answer the phone. We all talk to the person on the other end. We answer questions where we can, and we react accordingly. I think we're all passionate about Scag, but we're passionate about just generally what we do, and that's sorry, excuse me, sorry. That's supporting lawnmower contractors. So, yeah, look, I don't know. I think being small allows us to be a lot more nimble. I answer the phone today. It's afternoon here on a Thursday. We're talking to dealers, whether it's about support, tech support, whether it's about stock availability, whether it's about dispatching and where their machines are at. Forward orders. Right now, we're working really heavily on the 2024 pipeline, and that means that I, as the owner, pick up the phone, and there's lots of deals that I'll speak direct to and just ask them how's things there. It's a tough year. It's different parts of the country are different climates, but certainly there's certain parts are very dry, and disposable income this year's very difficult for a lot of people too. So the best gauge or the way for us to work out what's that going to mean for us is to pick up the phone. We talk to contractors. We watch the socials. We respond where we can as quickly as we can. We talk to the dealers about what they're hearing from their customers and contractors, and go from there. So I think, in answer to your question, being small allows us to be nimble, allows us to be reactive, it allows us to be quicker. Rob was addicted to his phone. There's no doubt about it. There's times I'd see stuff and I'd pick up the phone to try and respond before I had it. Rob's already done it. So the other thing, actually, with the socials is, we've got this Scag family, and that's a group of customers, dealers, people that are passionate and interested in Scag. Quite often, there's a question asked on one of the socials, and it's answered by somebody else. It's answered by another customer. It might be somebody who's got a question or a problem. Belt breaking or something like that, and there's 3 or 4 answers within a couple of minutes, and they're people that just are passionate about the product, want to help a fellow friend contractor out, and they help us out as well.
I think that's the thing about this industry which needs to be applauded, is there is this camaraderie that's now developed, and it's between people who should have on paper been competitors. Right, you'll find people who are in the same area as contractors who will support each other, and it is, you shouldn't take that for granted, people, because it didn't always used to be like that. But I think what's happened is, and a big part of why I did this podcast was to continue that. But there used to be, you go to the tip, and no one wanted to talk to you. I've been in this industry for 10 years, which is a long time for a small business in this industry, even though I'm not old, right? But no one would tell you how to get your pricing right. No one would tell you all this kind of stuff. And now it's changing. And yes, these online lawnmower contractors in Australia, there are some good eggs and some bad eggs, and there are some people who want to shoot somebody else down and somebody who just want to help. But a story of this, which I'm sure you're well aware of, is when BJ, who is an ambassador for you, some people may not know this story. BJ came on the podcast, but he lost his daughter earlier in the year, and and it just happened to be me, but it wasn't. I bet you if I didn't do it, somebody else would have done it. I just happened to start a GoFundMe on this page, and Lawnmower Contractors Australia, and I think I put $50 into it, right? And I was like, it'd be nice to get $2,000. I think it was $14,000.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah.
For somebody, there would have been people who invested in that, who BJ is a direct competitor. There would have been people, so many, who never met him as a guy. And I think that is one of the best stories that I've seen in this industry, certainly this year. But one of the better ones, because and people are like, oh, good job, Luke. I didn't do anything. I put up a thing that took me 15 minutes to do and put $50 in. It was the community that did something about it, and people putting $500, $200, $300. Yeah, way more generous than I was. maybe look bad.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, look, it's not.
Yeah.
You make a good point. It's not about how deep is your pocket. It's about the commitment. It's the combined friendship for somebody that, as you say, is a competitor. Somebody that may be just on the end of a text message or a message from a messenger from time to time. It was amazing. I'm obviously pretty close to BJ as he's an ambassador for us, but I attended the funeral. There were contractors there that actually hadn't met BJ, and they'd travelled interstate just to show their respects. And it's a very sad topic, which I don't particularly want to talk too much about. But the fact that as you say, people found it in their hearts to find some money, but some also found it in their hearts to just come along and pay the respect. It's amazing, and that's just really one example of that AMCA community, or more than LMCA. It's the whole industry community. It's not too many enemies really. Everybody competes with each other at the end of the day, but it's one of the friendliest bunch of people you'll ever find.
People, if you've been enjoying this Makers Month series, we're in the second half of it now. If you've been loving that, the reality is that has only been able to happen or been able to be produced because of the Patreons. You may not know this, but the work that goes behind the scenes is insane. We've been doing sort of 11 p.m., 12 p.m. finishes pretty much every day since this series started, and a little bit before that, to be honest, as well. And here's the thing. I'm not editing these podcasts at all. We have an editor now. So it's just a sheer amount of work. If you're enjoying this and you've been listening to them, we're not getting paid by the brands. This is trying to be as unbiased as possible. And so people, if you like this series, jump on the Patreon. We need that support because at the end of the series, there won't be any money left. So going forward, we need some of that support. So people, jump on if you're enjoying it. Become a patron. You become $5 a month, or you can give $5 a month, or $16.50. Now, if you say that's not within my means, totally fine. No judgment, no pressure. But if it's within your means and you are enjoying it, then go for that. Now, a way that you can support without the money is to share on social media. Help us get more people who listen, more people who watch. And anyways, I want to say thank you to those patrons because honestly, I can't handle too many more of these late nights. So thanks for supporting and paying for that editor. Anyways, let's get back in the podcast. So let's get into the products or the tools. Do you call them products? It's a bit weird. Products feel like shampoos sometimes, but it kind of covers everything.
Machines. I just call them the machines.
That's a good word. That's what they machines.
Are. Some people call them units, but for us, it's the machines. It's what we're here for.
I am very interested in this. Let's chat this on the screen right now. You have 3 things that you've just released, and looking at it, it's a fascinating that you guys are expanding into 2 of these, and the 2 that I'm very interested in, which is probably the least popular in terms of sales because they're niche, but you have a 36-inch, what you're calling a Turf Storm, which this is a spreader, sprayer, ride-on machine. It looks like a tank, like most Scag stuff do. And the second thing, before we talk about detail, which I'm interested in, is what you're calling a jackal, which is like a dingo, a kanga. It's a stand-on kind of bobcat style, and obviously you've gone with another animal name on there. And but the other thing that before we get into details, you've got the new V-Ride XL. Can we start with the Turf Storm? Because I'm somebody who loves, I was telling you off air, I love the high end of turf maintenance. And we do a lot of product applications. I was doing that kind of stuff this week, right? Like fertilizers, wetting agents, herbicides, that kind of stuff. And this is exactly what this machine is for, right?
Yes. Yep. Sprayer spreader. It's actually based, the framework on it, or the chassis of this is based off the Aerator, which is another product that's already here in the Australian market. But the Turf Storm is exactly as it sounds. It's a sprayer spreader. They've gone small. So the 36-inch, we've had it for now probably 18 months in a larger version. So the feedback they were getting is that, it was just too big. It sort of gets to a point, I guess, where you can look at other sprayer spreader tractor mounted and so on and so forth that become more efficient and effective. So Scag took on board the feedback, and we sold a few of those. There's quite a few of them running around the country. But this particular model's come out as a smaller version, so you can get into domestic backyards, residential areas, smaller, tighter spaces, and do exactly what you're talking about. It's about enhancing the grass at the end of the day. Spraying chemicals, seeding, whatever you want to do. That's what it's there, and it's based off a V-ride. But the aerator, which we can talk about a bit later as well, comes on the same chassis. It's just got an aerator rotor sitting on the bottom of it.
Yeah. So what I love about this is you talked before about how it's been a tough year. And I think the thing about this is obviously the market is something you can't control, right?
Yep.
But there are things you can control. The weather you can't control, right? But what you can control is being resilient in business to be able to do these kinds of things or to handle these kinds of seasons. And by diversifying into product application, right? Wetting agents. We will talk about the aerator soon, but putting out wetting agents when there's no rain, right? There's a lot of data that a wetting agent is equal to, well, because of how effective it is with the watering, you can get 20-25% more water into the soil where it's needed, preventing runoff, things like that. So in dry areas, and Perth is incredibly dry all the time, but we have irrigation and stuff.
Dry and sandy.
Dry and sandy, and sort of like, this is controversial to some people when I put it out, but it was a little bit misunderstood. But I put out a video saying that in Brisbane, the driest year that Brisbane's had in the last 10 years was 10 times more rain than Perth gets on average in summer. So their driest summer was still 10 times more than what Perth gets. But everybody has irrigation here. So, but anyways, we're doing this kind of stuff over here already because we need to do it. And I think a lot of guys over east need to start thinking or would be benefited from thinking about, hey, can I diversify my business into a different avenue? Because you can make money in the dry time through these kinds of services. So it's great that you're getting this over here for that sort of market.
Yeah. Look, it's an extension of that contractor space. Scag. Sorry, just losing. Scag typically are lawnmowers, and they're just the Jackal, which we're going to talk about, is an extension of it as well. But for this, I think, and I'm not a contractor, but just talking to contractors, you can't just survive cutting grass. You've got to do more. And I know some go into landscaping, paving, building retaining walls, all that sort of stuff. Or you could go deeper into the turf space. And I guess this is a product that really supports those contractors that want to go into deeper into the turf space. It's a natural extension. Scag have recently bought Bluebird in the US, which are a number of walk.
Oh, really?
So they make a number of. Yeah. So that's. Sorry.
He's having trouble with his headphones.
Too much wax.
Get some duct tape, wrap it around your head, stick it in.
So Scag have bought Bluebird, and for some of the listeners, they may be familiar with Bluebird, but Bluebirds make a series of aerators, that thatchers and so forth that you walk behind. They're blue in colour. If you Google it, you can find them. There's a couple of distributors here in Australia at the moment, but Scag bought that product because, again, they see it's an extension of what they currently do. It's sort of, marketing 101. What do? Do you try and find a new market and sell your existing product, or you've got an existing market and sell more product? So that's where they're going with it. It's very early days. The Bluebird acquisition, it literally happened in the last few weeks, but we've been notified.
Oh, wow.
And we'll wait and see. We'll watch this space. Hopefully there'll be an opportunity for us to get some more of that product into the country.
I tried Googling Bluebird while you were talking, and it came up with birds. I'm not technically proficient enough to talk. I know what you're talking about. I've used their stuff at the hire shops before. A lot of people would have had that at the hire shops. So, but it's fascinating. So is that going to stay blue, or are you going to make it Scag stuff?
Cat's eye gold is the colour of Scag. Look, I don't know. Early days. I would suspect that they will keep it as it is at the moment, and then hopefully try and build from there. Yeah.
But you are right that there is that. So vertimowing or scarifying and aeration and all that kind of stuff is a market that is growing, and I think it's a very smart move. I think it's so smart. That's exactly what we do, right? Like that's a lot of our business is that higher end turf. I would say a quarter to a third of all of our work, maybe even
Yes.
close to half at some points, is a mixture of product application, aerating, vertimowing, grooming, reticulation, irrigation work. That's like, it diversifies us. And for me, I know that if we were to have the driest, well, we had the driest summer, second driest summer of all time last summer at 1.6 total mils. But like when things go bad, our business is diverse and we can change up and do other things that are not just mowing. And so it's nice that you're getting into that. Now, I want to talk about some stats so people can, because they're all on the screen, but most people are not listening. So the sprayer capacity is 30 gallons. How many litres is that?
Yeah. So, as I said, the turf store on this new version that's coming out next year is a 36-inch framework, similar to the V-Ride. At the moment, they've got a much larger, which is based off the 48 model. So at the moment, the 48 does a 60 gallon. This is effectively half of that. So that's 30.
Yep.
What's that in litres?
113. I just did it. I did. Yes,
go.
113 litres, which is a lot. You're going to get 5 to, or I would just say 3 to 8,000 square meters out of 100 liters for most stuff. It changes, but liquid fertilizers, herbicides, things like that.
Yeah. So, it is designed for that smaller project. We haven't seen them yet. We've got the current ones in stock, but in terms of size, it's double the capacity. So if you've got bigger jobs, that's what you've got to look at. But as I said before, it gets to that point where you're better off getting a specialised tractor system in or sprayer system in. But these are stand-ons. They're made for the industry. They're made to go on and off a trailer. They're made to get into tight spaces. We think it's it's not for everyone, but certainly there's a big market and a big opportunity for it.
Yeah. So you've got a 54 kilogram capable. What's the word I'm looking for? Hopper for a spreader.
Yep.
Which is quite large. Like most of the bigger walk behind stuff is only sort of, you might get to 20 kilos, maybe 30 kilos. And so, capacity is much increased, obviously.
Yeah. Look, although it's a residential machine, it's got huge capacity. There's not many yards that you're not going to be able to do where you have to fill up again. If you're doing a big site, multiple yards, maybe golf courses, that sort of thing. But again, it gets to that point where you need either the bigger one or something that's more specialised. But this is for the contractor market. We think it's going to be pretty successful. There's quite a few running around the country already of the bigger versions. Feedback's been really positive. Most are spraying, but you can use it to spread seeds and things as well. The sprayer on because you can get an extendable arm system on it, can spray up to 25 feet wide in a single pass. So, it's pretty considerable when you look at it and think about it. Huge.
Now, can you spray and spread at the same time? Because could you put out you can't? Okay.
I don't think so. Look, I'd need to come back to you on it, Luke. I'm not sure you can.
I guess you could just throw the pellets out with it by hand as the spray is going, or squirt some product out of your mouth like an Italian fountain. Don't do that, people. That's dangerous.
No, it's a different attachment. So it comes with both attachments, but I haven't seen one where it's set up to spray and spread at the same time.
Well, maybe the next model, because you can put a liquid wetting agent out at the same time as fertilizing.
One of the options actually on this machine is a foamer.
Oh, really? So you've got a marker?
Yeah,
awesome.
Really worthwhile considering as you're driving along. It's not an expensive option either.
Really? Because
dropping foam.
What price is it? Because I know that to get a foamer, a lot of times it's a couple of grand, depending on the piece of kit you're getting.
Yeah, look, don't hold me to it, but it's under $500. So that's just an attachment that goes on it, right?
Yes.
That drops a little bit of foam as you go along. So generally, to put it on, retrofit it on a machine that hasn't got it could be quite expensive. Absolutely.
Well, the thing is that often the time, the reason why they're expensive, people, is and you can look them up for yourself, right? Just Google it, how much a marker system costs, because you need a separate tank, a separate pump, and a separate sort of spraying system. you kind of, and this is when I say $2,000, obviously there's more expensive and cheaper as well. But look, that's it's a competitive price there. Now, before we get to the actual price of it, I did do some math again when Duncan was talking. The 54 kilogram hopper for most fertilizers, it's got to get you somewhere between 1,500, maybe 3,000 square meters per application. That means you could do a soccer field with 2 fills of the hopper quite comfortably. And so that's for somebody who's doing a variety of things, say commercial applications like building surrounds at a school, and then you also have to do the oval. It's that's an interesting bit of gear kit. I keep getting that. Yeah. It's a tool that, again, like you said, not everybody's going to be interested, but for someone like me, I love this kind of stuff.
Yeah. Look, they're it's an extension of what people do at the moment. Some people do it by hand, do it with a work behind machine. I think this is a nice, easy, comfortable way to do it. It's got Scag build quality and spec, so it's a great machine.
You said the RRP on here is not being announced yet. Do you have a ballpark? Because these are
on
not
that
out
one.
Yet.
So, what I can tell you is the one with the 60-gallon hopper. That's coming in about 30 grand plus GST.
Yep.
At a retail level. This will be cheaper than that. So I don't have an RRP on it at the moment. With Scag, prices generally run on a calendar year, and this year the 2024 pricing will be released just prior to Christmas. And we hold our prices. So we have a policy here in Australia, and it's part of Scag worldwide really, is we set a price and we hold it. So the price that it comes out at, we'll find out just before Christmas, and then that'll be held for all of that 2024 calendar year.
So, okay. But look, so it'll be something less than $30,000.
Yep.
And we'll just see. But obviously people who are interested can reach out. Could we say something like mid-20s would be something that you're likely to be?
Something like that. Yeah, okay. Something like that. People, if you're really seriously interested, feel free to send me a message at Scag Australia, or jump on the phone, give me a call, or go in and see a dealer. I could work out ballpark, pretty close. I haven't done it for this show, unfortunately. But at a push, I could go and have a look and work it out, and then share that with people. So we're happy to start taking orders. The delivery on it's still uncertain on the smaller model. The larger models, we actually have them in stock, but the here in Australia, but the smaller models, I haven't got an ETA to Scag. I'm probably going to guess and say March, something like that. We should expect to see them here in Australia.
Well, that is in time for a lot of your broadleaf applications that might happen over winter. So anyway, that's an interesting one. Now, here's what people really want me to talk about. That was just for me. They want to talk about the new V-Ride XL. V-Ride, very popular. A lot of people now they get into the small stuff. This is not small stuff. That's what XL means. But you got 52, 61, and a 72-inch deck with the dual wheels there. Now that it's one of those pieces of equipment that, and look, there's 1,000,001 of these out there that everybody would love to have, but like you might not have the work, but you look like a real man, don't you, when you've got twice as many wheels as you kind of normally have.
Yeah, they do. Hey, look, it's a beast. I was lucky enough to have a go on one on the prototype over in Wisconsin at Scag headquarters back in September. They had a distributor conference over there worldwide. Look, it's a beast. The V-Ride already is a very successful unit here in Australia. There's some competition, which are all great products as well, but the V-Ride sort of stands out as being, really a really good product. And what Scag took the opportunity to do was beef that up. So, they pumped it up with bigger specs, bigger framework, dual wheels. Now, the dual wheels are an option. I've already had people ringing me, wanted to order them with the dualies. The dualies are an option. It comes standard with a single set of wheels. But, we can put dualies on as well. And I haven't got the pricing on it. I will have it very shortly, but that one's going to come in about 25K plus GST.
Well, that's what it says on here, 25K. That almost seems, I don't know what these things cost because I don't know this stuff off the top of my head, but I feel like it would be more expensive. I mean, I guess we just talked about a spreader sprayer for 30 grand. So maybe the big mower.
It's so you can get a standard 61 V ride. Let's use the 61 as an example. Standard 61 V ride. Just quickly looking at my price list here. You know, that's coming in at 22 plus GST. So you know, it's probably 2.5 to 3 grand more than that, which is representative of the up spec in size, new design. Yeah, I think that's where the market's at.
The standards are always, well, as far as I'm aware, always more expensive than a sit down.
They are
across
they're
brands.
Good
so
15 to 20% dearer than a sit down. I think it's because of the engineering that's in them. You know, there is a bit more. At the sit downs, you know, they develop and evolve over time. But the V Ride, you know, is relatively new in terms of they've been out for a while, but they're still evolving. You're still paying for a bit of research and development, but typically the V Ride spec is higher than a standard sit down 0-turn. So if you look at the 48, for instance, the 48 V Ride is spec'd up full commercial specs. Whereas you can get a 48 0-turn, which is, you know, more for a domestic or residential market. You know, it's going to be 3 or 4 grand cheaper, but it just hasn't got the spec of the V Ride.
Well, I just feel like the market knows that if they're wanting to go down a big stand-on mower, that they don't probably care too much about $1,000 here or there, because it's the return. They've already worked out the return on investment, the efficiency of the cut. You know, there's certain things that, you know, like, you get what I mean. If someone was on an actual budget and they wanted the biggest mower they could get on a budget, that you'd probably go for a sit down. So the market's it just seems like it's a pretty good price to me. So now when you're saying it's spec'd up in gear, is this the thickness of the steel? Is this the hydros? Is this the engine itself? You know, the new V-Ride XL, okay, it's got more specs, but can we, in a nutshell, just sum up some of these specs? Is it the thicker steel? Is it the better hydros? Is it a bigger engine? What's the kind of stuff that is making this?
Yeah, look, all that. Actually, the engines is largely the same, and there's been a number of different engine varieties that have come out for the V-Rides over the last few years. But everything else is correct. Yes, spec'd up. So bigger hydros, hydros on it, 16cc pumps and 15 CI wheel motors. So they're an up spec on the dual hydro pumps, and they're double pumps. So independently fed with their own reservoir. So that's an up spec on the current setup. The steel tubing, I don't know. I haven't got specifics, but I can tell you it's bigger. You know, they're beefed up a hell of a lot. Dual wheel system, bigger. Just everything's just sort of with Scag. If you look at just even a little Liberty, an entry level machine, they're somewhat over engineered. You know, the quality and the size of the gauges of the steel that they've got. You know, the systems to raise decks, lower decks, hold decks tight. You know, the idler arms, they're all beefy. And with the V-Ride XL, they're beefier again. They've just beefed it right up. Not that they've had problems with the current one, but they acknowledge that, you know, some contractors, and there's certainly some on LMCA that push these things pretty hard, doing wheelies and jumps and all sorts of things. They're challenging them, I guess, to get an XL and try and break it. It's pretty busy. You know, it's full on. Yeah. And the dual wheels, you know, are going to help you a bit. Step on, you know, if you're on, you know, steep banks or hills or slippery slopes, then, you know, the dual wheels are going to be fantastic. We're really looking forward to seeing them.
Does the bigger hydro mean faster speed, or is it more about capacity of torque up a hill?
It's just it's torque up a hill. So if you think about these things, these mowers, again, I haven't quite got a weight.
It's 800 pounds or something like that. Oh no, that was the spreader sprayer. Sorry, I saw the stats.
I haven't got a weight on these, but you know, they're going to be.
They will be heavy,
north
right?
of 600-700 kilo. Yeah. So, right. And then, you know, you think you put a decent sized man on the back of it, you know, call it 100, 120 or more. You know, that's a beast of a machine. So what the hydros do is just give it that torque and grunt that you need to be able to do what you got to do. Ground speed, 12 miles an hour. To convert that to Ks, you're up around the 20K. That's what the current V-Rides do at the moment.
Well, it gets to a point where you start losing cut quality, don't you, if you go too fast? Yeah. And so you kind of rush the job, and you might not having to cut it twice anyway. So I think most people understand that. Obviously, the longer it is, you're probably not going full speed on something that's super long anyway. So, but
you're not. But you give people a weapon and they'll use it.
They will try to, for sure.
We know with the Cheetah 2, which is a dual speed transmission, over the ground, but something like 35 to 37 Ks an hour, just depending on the ground. But people mow at that. I've seen it on LMCA. I've seen it on our socials. Maybe you don't quite get the quality of cut that you'd expect when you're going, when you go a little bit slower, but you can have a lot of fun, do a lot quicker.
You can. Yeah. Well, the problem with going 35 as well is when you have that tree stump that's been cut off at the ground level, and you don't see that, it really hits you hard at 35. I've never put a seatbelt on, but I can see that you might want it on that model, So
look, the Cheetah 2, definitely. If you're going full speed on it, I'd be saying you do need a seatbelt on to keep her in the seat. It's a go-kart on wheels, really. But the V-Ride XL, look, we're going to see it goes into production first week in January, and that's in the US. They're producing it initially with a Briggs Vanguard and a 40 horsepower Briggs Vanguard EFI, and the Kawasaki 38FX EFI. So we'll probably take delivery of Kawasaki's if we can get them. So shipping for the US from us is about 5 weeks from production. So I'll be able to get an allocation, fingers crossed, in that first month. I've already got some on order. So let's assume, might see them late Feb, early March. But our recommended retail is going to be roughly around the 25. Again, if you're serious about it, you really want to place an order, speak to your dealer or message me direct at Scag Australia. We can work out and confirm and commit to a recommended retail for you and lock your order in. Away we go.
Is this would the 72-inch with I don't know which end would be more expensive, but would that be the most expensive mower you offer?
No, look, the top of the range in terms of money value is the Turf Tiger Diesel with a 72. So same deck. It's going to have that velocity deck. It's exactly the same deck. It's 72 inches and it's diesel. So with
diesel,
it's
a diesel engine that makes it a bit more expensive.
Yeah, I can give you a price on the diesel. As we're talking, you're up around the 36 grand plus GST, which for a diesel at 72 inches is pretty competitive. Some of our competitors are certainly north of that. But in terms of expense, no, look, I think the V-Ride XL, if we're keeping it to around that 25 odd plus GST, so that 25 is for the 61, the 72 is going to be a bit more than that. We don't sell a lot of 72s. 72 inches a big deck. A lot of councils want them because they feel that you can do wider spaces with such a big deck. Talk to the contractors. BJ for us has been trialing 61s. He's a 61 guy. He thinks, and it's right. It's a more efficient deck, the 61. They're both triple spindle, but trying to get grass out 3 spindles and then out across a 72-inch deck, it's doing a lot of work. So, 61, you can probably, while it's not as wide, in our opinion, it's a more efficient deck. So it's going to get the grass out neater, nicer, quicker, more efficiently. So if that means you've got to do one more pass or something, a couple of passes because you've got a narrower deck, then so be it. And for that reason, we probably sell, for every 10 61-inch decks we sell, we probably sell 1 or 2 72s. It's literally that popular, the 61. So with the V-Ride XL, we're bringing in 52s and 61s to start. 72s we'll get a handful of to see what they look like. But we expect the market's going to be more around the 52 and 61 inch.
Well, it makes sense because they're kind of more versatile in that, there's not very many people other than like councils or whatever who will exclusively do massive areas. Most people as contractors will have a mixture. They might have some really big jobs, but they also might have some medium-sized jobs and maybe even some small jobs. So they might get a 32 and a 61, or they may, they need that versatility. And I can totally see why a 52 or a 61 will be more popular than 72, especially if you've got some gates to get through. Let's talk about this jackal. Sorry, you go.
Even trying to get a 72 on a trailer, you always need a white load sign. It's a big chunky machine. So yeah,
exactly. And a 48 will fit in most people's trailers. There's different things that people got to think about. Let's talk about the jackal, and we don't need to talk about too much on this because I don't think many people are going to be who listen to this, but there will be some who go, I want a digger. I do a lot of mulching, or I do landscaping, and I do get into this kind of stuff. What's this jackal doing that we're not currently getting on the market, or that you believe is worth bringing it over here for the market?
Yeah. Well, it's a good question, and I'll start by saying, so this came as a bit of a surprise when we were over in the US at Scag recently, and the background to it was, Scag's always looking at what the competitors are doing, particularly in the US market, and particularly in the contractor space. And it's an extension of, it's a bit like the spray spreader and blower that we've got as well, the windstorm. It's an extension of what our market does. So again, it's marketing 101. It's selling or creating a new product for an existing captured market, and that's what we've got. So it's for the contractors out there that do landscaping. We also see an opportunity which is not currently really investigated by Scag, but in the hire market in the US,
yes,
it's a much bigger, it's a bigger market in the US. People go and hire a zero turn for the day to mow their lawn. I'm not sure in Australia we've got the market, and I certainly don't intend to be putting, liberties and freedoms and V-rides in the Kennards, but a jackal, I think there's an opportunity there. It is the sort of machine that if you're a contractor, you may see the need to have one permanently, or you may see the need to have one for a particular job. So it does open a new market from that perspective. And again, the background was the CEO of Metalcraft that makes Scag saw the opportunity, came back to Metalcraft in Mayville, Wisconsin, and spoke to the research and development team. Now, normally he goes in there every Monday morning and says things like, "Have we thought about putting dual wheels on it?" Or something similar like they've done with the XL. But he grabbed the head of marketing, Matt Mungan, and said, "Matt, I want to make a digger." And Matt, who I know quite well, sort of did his double take, cleaned his ears out and said, you want to do what? And sure enough, he said, we want to do a digger. So that was the sort of basis of it. And I think the opportunity was, as I've just said, but also, Scag looked at the competition and thought, this is a good product. There's a market for it. The competition's there. There's Vermeer. There's a whole heap of different competitors. But, with the Scag brand, build quality, engineering, why can't they be as good or better? So that's where it started. And the word jackal, it's another animal, but rumor has it a jackal's one of the only animals that can attack and kill a dingo. So that's I'm told the background to it, but I've only heard that second.
I reckon a bogan with a shotgun's pretty good against a dingo too, as well. Imagine they call it the new bogan with a shotgun. It doesn't have the same ring to it, does it?
So look, the jackals, it's exciting. We'll get them in for sure.
And we're back into this. So one more question on the jackal, which is what everyone's going to want to ask, and I believe you don't actually have an answer on this, which is what will it cost?
Yeah, I'd love to share it, Luke. I'd love to know myself. It's I'm not sure. It doesn't go into production until mid-year at Scag. It's literally in development at this stage. So, look, I don't know, and I'd even be probably guessing. But what I would say is, Scag's not silly. They'll look at the competition. They'll they'll work out, economies of scale where they can. They've got good production facilities already. They will pitch it at a price point which is in the market. It certainly won't be, over the top. So keep an eye out for it. It won't be in our 2024 price release, but as soon as it does come available, we certainly will start to publish it for everyone.
You let people know. And the other thing we should say is the pitches have a bucket, but it is able. It says here, standard mini attachment interface accepts a variety of universal type attachments. So it is a full package of or not like that you can sell the full package, but you can get the full package of universal attachments. For
absolutely, and look, a lot will be non-genuine Scag, so it'll come out with the genuine Scag parts, but you'd be silly if you made it and it didn't fit some of the other competitor products, particularly some of the, there's a lot that are made here in Australia, so it may be an opportunity for us to look at bringing in the unit itself, but then from an attachment perspective, we'll certainly do some research and have a look at what's available here locally, because if we can save a few dollars, then we'll certainly look to do that.
Sounds good, mate. Now I want to go through your ride-on range, which if we were to do that on its own would be a year-long podcast. So what we're going to do is you have a Liberty, the Freedom, and the Patriot, which now they're all different, but you would kind of say these are more targeted for, now Scag does, you kind of don't do the light-on grade equipment at all, right?
Yep.
But these are not. Would these be considered commercial or somewhere in between?
We sell a lot of them into the commercial market, but Scag actually makes them as their consumer residential domestic machine. So those three you mentioned, the Liberty's the entry level. It's a base entry machine. It's spec really high still though. So if you look at the 36-inch, for instance, the specs on it, the hydros, the pumps, they're almost commercial grade. They're very close to, and as soon as you get above a 48-inch in the Liberty, they certainly are commercial spec hydro pumps. The engine varieties have changed a little bit over the last couple of years with the pandemic and the shortage of supply. But again, from a horsepower perspective, they've got lots of grunt, lots of power. They're ideal, I think, for the contractor market. But then made those three, Liberty, Freedom, and Patriot, the domestic range within the Scag stable. All very good machines. The Liberty comes in everything from a 36-inch right through to a 61-inch deck. Again, different varieties. They're made a 42-inch deck specifically for the Australian market. We gave them the feedback for years that 42-inch was a popular number in Australia. Scag sort of thought in the US and other parts of the world it wasn't that popular, but they went and did it. They made it for us. It's been a pretty popular model for us. Our most popular of that range is the 48 Liberty. That's just a nice size for Australian market, nice size for contract. And the Freedom Patriot, they step up in. They just step up in specs. It's like some of our competitors. It's really about what you want to pay. We can't all afford to spend 30 grand on a zero-turn mower, so Scag makes a range that sort of starts at 10 and incrementally increases up. So as you get up, the deck sizes are roughly the same. They all come with what's called a hero deck in that range. So the decks are more or less identical. They are identical. But, you start to get suspension seats. You start to get bigger charge pumps and hydros, bigger engines. You get, things like phone, cigarette lighters to be able to charge your phone, cup holders, dual fuel tanks. They start to, you just get a few more bells and whistles as you step up in the range.
Now, would you say that all of this, all these ranges can, because you said that some people do use them commercially, and the way that I think about it is obviously if you were doing full-time acreage or a big chunk of your work is acreage, you would want the bigger, more reliable, more efficient machine. The extra money on it wouldn't matter ultimately because you should be making it back from your business, right? But there was a lot of people out there who they're starting out, they want to dabble, they want to get into it. Do you consider the Liberty, the Freedom, the Patriot as great sort of dabbling, getting into it kind of machines?
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. And I think it depends a bit on what you're mowing. So you're right. If you're doing acreage, then you need a commercial machine. But you may be still mowing for 8 hours a day, but you're doing nature strips and
True.
small parks and gardens, even sporting ovals, that sort of thing, and surrounds. Sometimes the bigger commercial machines aren't ideal for that. They're heavier. They're harder to get on and off a trailer. Although the deck sizes might be similar, you might be running a 52 commercial or a 52 in the Patriot, but it's a smaller, lighter, more nimble machine, more efficient, smaller engines. You're not going to need to get up to 30k an hour. So a lot of contractors in the Australian market, a lot of Jim's guys and Fox and others, they run with the Liberties. They are on it all day, but it's the right machine for their market.
Yeah. And what are the warranties like on these machines?
So across all the range on a commercial, for commercials, it's 12 months. For resi, it's for your own purposes, then it's 5 years. So we sort of take the view that, if a machine's used every day, all day, then, 12 months is a reasonable warranty. But, we are fair where, if something goes that shouldn't go, then, we encourage people to speak to their dealer. There are times where we will go beyond that 12 months, just depend on what's happened and where. But the one thing I'll say about Scag is the build quality is so great. Warranties are reasonably rare. They do happen, things do go wrong, but most of the time it's because something's been done up wrong or too tight or not put on the right way at the factory. So in those instances, there is time for a warranty, but 12 months on the commercial ranges.
We got Tiger's Cat, Cheetah,
Tiger Cat,
and
yes,
Turf Tiger. So, just on a broad overview, what are these? Because for me, I look at all these mowers, and you kind of get almost lost in the options. Do you know what I mean? It's like when you're sitting at a restaurant and all the menu items look good to eat, and it takes you longer to decide what to eat than it does for them to cook it. What are these specifically targeting? So let's start with the Tiger Cat. What are they really tercing in mind,
Yeah, look, that's the commercial range. Starts with the Tiger Cat. You're looking at about 20 odd grand plus GST. That's entry level commercial. But in terms of pound for pound, dollar for dollar, and the competition, I would say it's one of the best mowers at that level. Again, engine varieties in the Tiger Cat have changed a little bit, but at the moment we're doing with Kawasaki 26 horsepower EFI and a Kohler. Also, that's a 25 horsepower Kohler. But they've got big dual pumps on them and hydros. They pump out 12 cc's on the hydro. So, they're a big, comfortable machine. They've got, a nice sprung seat. They've got, adjustable arms. There's a whole heap of different things that you can play with to get the right fit and the right feel.
I get what you mean.
Any of the commercial range.
So it's taking into account the fact that you've got to be on the mower for longer, right?
So
let's think about how it's going to feel, all that sort of stuff.
That's right. It's got bigger wheels, dual fuel tanks, much bigger engines, particularly once you get into the next one up, which is the Cheetah. You can get that in a 40 horsepower EFI, 38 horsepower Kawasaki. They got the dual speed transmission, so as I said before, very quick over the ground. The Cheetah's got a full suspension platform system, so rather than your seat going up and down and your feet sort of sitting still, you move as one. So from a OH&S perspective, I guess your legs and feet remain the same. They're not going like that as you're driving up and down, going over bumps. Both are belt driven still. So bottom of the block runs a drive belt, and then you've got a deck belt that's running your 3 spindles across the decks. The decks are all the same. They're the Velocity deck, which if you've done any research on Scag for the contractors out there, it's a very popular deck, very efficient deck. You can get them in 48, 52, 61 and 72 inch decks. The decks are all the same, so it's really what's above the deck that starts to change once you get into that range. Turf Tiger's PDO drive, so off the bottom of your block you've got a PDO coming out of that then runs to a central spindle which runs a single belt. So that with the PDO just gives a bit more of the oomph and grunt that you may need, particularly if you're coming into long grasses and that sort of thing.
So is your cheetah then sort of fast, efficient, light? Well, not that you would only do light stuff with it, but if you're more talking about maintenance cuts and the occasional overgrown lawn, it's fast. It goes, it's going to get that done quicker. And the Turf Tiger is more for the abuse and taking. Is that what you had in mind?
Yeah, look, that's one way you could look at it. Yeah, look, they'll all abuse lawn if it has to be abused. But yeah, like your Turf Tiger, we sold one recently to a golf course down here. It cuts. They all cut well, but that cuts particularly well, and those guys enjoy the speed of it. They're out on a course, they mow a fairway. Now it's not Melbourne's best golf course, but it's it's a decent sort of golf course, and the cheetah cuts sufficiently well to be to warrant it. And for them, they end up down on the 10th green or something. They need to get back to the shed. Then they can chuck it in high range and come back down the track pretty quickly.
Now, the V-Ride that we talked about the new ones coming out, but the other thing is that now you have a 32. Oh, your sizing is out of order on the website. 36, 48, 52, 32.
Yes, yeah.
I don't know why.
32 was thrown in there. So the 32 is the most recent addition. And that came out, it's probably 18 months ago now. So we do need to get that order on the website updated. But the 32 is designed to get through a residential gate. I think outside to outside, I can probably get it to you, but it is designed, while it's a commercial spec machine, it's designed to get through narrow spaces, get into backyards. It's got little sets of wheels on the side of it so that the total width is no wider than the actual 32-inch deck. So that's been a really popular model for us. We've, to be fair, struggled to keep up with demand. The supply of those coming out of the US has been strong, but demand's outweighed it. We get to the point where every machine that comes in is already spoken for, but we are slowly getting on top of it, and that's a great machine. So we've got a contractor would have a setup whereby they might have one of the bigger commercial machines, a Tiger Cat cheetah or a Turf Tiger, to do the big broad stuff, and then they've got one of these little babies to roll off the trailer and do nature strips, front yards and backyards, or just harder to get to places. So yeah, it's a great model. The 32 and even the 36, very similar in terms of their spec. It's just really the deck that's different under the two of them. Great standards.
Well, I think that's the thing. Like, if you're getting into this full time and you're going to do a lot of cutting, you're going to have a variety of machines. Well, you don't have to, but often you will have to, because, say, like we said before, with a school, if you're going to do a school, you'll have an oval, and then you'll have school surrounds. And for us, with our school that we do, there's certain areas you can't get into with with the bigger mowers. You need something that's 36-inch or less, and if your options are 21-inch walk behind or 32, well, you're going to be so much faster with a 32. But cutting an oval with a 32 is probably not the right machine. But you find as well, like, a lot of people, they do the maths themselves. If they're doing enough of this work, it's actually not expensive to buy two, because there is return on investment for it. And a lot of people will they will finance these bits of equipment, and the cost of the weekly finance or the monthly finance outweighs the cost of wages for someone who's less efficient on a cheaper machine. These are the kind of things that people want to talk about. So a lot of people who are listening to this might go, well, why would you buy two? Some people, they need three. So it's just different businesses, need different stuff.
Yeah. Look, it is. It's replacing what would be a walk behind self-propelled market for exactly what you're talking about. And the finance thing, we run Scag Finance, which is available through our website. You simply go on, you scan the QR code and plug in a few details, and you'll get a pre-approval, within 48 hours generally. And what that is breaks down to a weekly or monthly repayment. So on a 32 stand-up, off the top of my head, works out about $70 or $75 a week. So to your point, if that means you're saving a couple of hours and not having to push a mower around, then it's a no-brainer, really, isn't it?
Well, if you're charging, let's say you're charging $100 an hour, you only need to save yourself 45 minutes to save be able to fit $75 more work in a week, right? If you're paying somebody $35 an hour plus GST, sorry, not plus GST, plus super plus workers comp, they're really costing you about $40 an hour, right? If you, well, more than that really, but let's say $40 an hour is the total cost. If you can save 2 hours a week worth of work, that's $80 in wages saved for a piece of gear that can then keep on saving you more time. This is the stuff that's got to go through people's minds,
Yeah, and look, to your point earlier about, what did we do to help Scag grow? And, I talked about getting in the contractor market. One of the things we identified, and my background's finance, was let's make it easier for people to buy these things, and let's make it easier, and then let's promote it. So, when you dumb it down like that, you click on here, put your number in, your name, you can answer within 48 to 72 hours. It works out $70-$80 depending on your machine. A big machine might be $120 a week, but horses for courses. If you make it easy for people to get into a Scag, then they're going to get into it. If you think, oh shit, I've got to save myself 15 grand before I can buy that mower, that's hard, that's tough. No one generally has that sort of money laying around. So, working with Scag Finance and then working with contractors around trying to tailor it to what's possible and what's important, it's going to give us benefit and results.
I am a big proponent of finance if it's used right, because I think a lot of people who are solar operators, they want to cut their costs down as much as possible, it makes sense. But the smarter thing to do, rather than cutting costs down, is to increase the work you can get done. As a solar operator who is limited to, let's say, 40 hours a week on the tools, right? Your two options are cut your costs down, but there's a limit to how much you can cut your costs down. But there is a much higher ceiling and limit to how much work can you get done in a week. So if you go from, let's make up some numbers, I'm doing $2,000 a week with walk-behind machines, and now I'm doing $2,500 a week with walk-behind and stand-on machines, 3,000, 4,000, like if you start diversifying, if you take your average hourly rate from 60 to 80 to 100, who cares about the interest? The interest payments are comical or just not even worth looking at in that scenario. I think where it becomes an issue is when someone buys a piece of equipment that they end up not using. That's where the problem of finance really is. But if you have a use for it, often the case is if you're going to get a better hourly rate, then the interest just doesn't matter.
No. Absolutely, yes. There's no point in financing something you haven't sit in your shed for 2 days a week or more. But there's currency also in work-life balance. If getting into a machine like this costs you 70 or whatever bucks a week, but it means you get to take Friday afternoons off because you're much quicker at mowing. If you're cutting you're saving 20% of your time because you're in one of these mowers. Well, guess what? That's half a day or more. So if that means Friday afternoon you get to take off and you go and pick up the kids from school, or you go to the pub with your mates or whatever. Exactly. There's currency in that.
Exactly. And I feel like when I started my business, I didn't get finance for 6 years in my business. Part of that was because of the life stage I was at. And, when you first start a business, it's hard to get finance. And I was young when I started a business, but I was nervous. This whole story in of itself, but I was nervous because a family member had gone bankrupt when I was growing up. And so I was hesitant to pull the trigger. And I had a conversation with someone who was a business coach. And not Darren, for those who listen, a different business coach, who talked to me about it. And I had an opportunity to buy a ride-on lawnmower. And they were like, why don't you finance it? And I was like, oh, I thought that was a bad idea. And he was like, no, you've got a job for it. Just go get it. And, this is many moons ago now, and anyways, that's where I got into it. And I wish ultimately that I have done that earlier. And, the piece of equipment I got was not that expensive in the scheme of things. It was less than $20,000. I think it was $11,000 back then. Remember those days when you could get a ride on lawnmower for that much? But, it was a small piece of equipment and it served me well and I made money off it. And I never looked back. And I'm not someone who's silly with finance, but it is something that I guess sometimes you need permission from somebody to do that kind of stuff. But if it's your choice, it might be a good one for you.
Yeah, look, the other thing is it's got a lot easier to get finance, particularly for this sort of thing.
Yep.
And you save a lot of money if you can put some money towards it. So we talk to contractors all the time about how they're structuring their financing. If you can put $1,000, a couple of grand towards it, or half, whatever you got, then that de-risks the transaction from the bank's perspective. So they make your interest rate a lot more attractive. It also makes your weekly commitments a lot less. But yeah, no longer do you need to provide 3 years financials and bloody map of the world around why you need to borrow finance. It's pretty simple nowadays, commercial finance, and if you particularly got a deposit, it's literally answer a few questions, press a button, and they'll come back to you with an answer.
Yeah, and yeah, look, the other thing as well is the way I look at it is you've got to often put down a 20% deposit on these pieces of equipment, depending on it's more complicated there, but that's pretty common. 20% is pretty common. And for my mind, if I'm going to buy a piece of equipment, I'm prepared to lose my 20% deposit, because that might be how much I lose. If I need to resell it, I'll make some money off it, whatever. But as long as I can resell it for what I still owe on it, which is, often very easy. If you've been using it for 3 years, you've paid off most of your finance, you might not be much left. That's the way I think about it. But that's a whole conversation in of itself. I'm sure you could, being from the finance industry earlier in your career, could talk about that for days at a time. But,
it's boring, but that's why I got into mowers. So let's get back onto that.
They're more exciting. They've got exciting colours. Talking about mowers, the walk behind range. You've got the SFC21 FSC30. Now the 30 is a tank. They both look like tanks, but how have these been picked up by the market? Are they being lapped up? Are the people hesitant for them? What's your feeling about it?
Yeah, look, I'll be honest. It initially, so the 30 came out first about 12 months ago, and then the 21s came out about September, August of this year into Australia. They were out in the US a bit earlier. There was an initial flood of orders, particularly on the 21s. We were inundated with orders, and we got rid of a lot of machines based on pre-orders and with dealers just wanting to put them on their floors. They're not for everyone. They are a heavy machine. I'd say they certainly are more aimed at a contractor market. There's some Americanisms around them, like a 4-wheel adjuster on the on the 21s. It's just a little bit frustrating. We wouldn't normally have that in the Australian market. They have a bar blade, whereas in Australia we typically have swing back blade kits. There's some aftermarket kits floating around now that are available that a lot of people are fitting. But in terms of demand, look, I think what we've done is we've those that were serious about their mowing, those that are passionate about Scag have taken delivery of them, and feedback's been pretty positive. In terms of going forward, look, it's part of the Scag range. It's probably not the first. It may be the first Scag you buy, but it's probably a complementary product. There's a market for it. We keep ordering, we keep getting interest in them. The 21 comes in both a 5 and a 7 horsepower. Again, it's a lot of horsepower for what it is. You don't really need the 7. It helps, obviously, if you're getting in long grass, but
of course,
5's more than enough. So if anybody's out there looking at it, then have a think about the 5, because I know we use them. We speak to contractors. The extra horsepower you don't really need. So if you can save a few bucks, then maybe that's a better outcome. But yeah, look, they're good. I'm not sure what's next in that self-propelled range for Scag. They haven't really shared much with us, but they will continue to evolve. They'll continue to develop. We will bring to the Australian market whatever they develop. But it's nice to have another product in the Scag stable that, again, for somebody that's serious and passionate about their Scag and need a self-propelled, then that's a good product. Put it in your trailer. It's Scag reliability, Scag quality. I don't think we've had a warranty claim. There's been a couple of small things, but they're pretty bulletproof. Yeah, they've been good.
What about the 30-inch? I mean, obviously they're sort of the same kind of mower in that they're walk behinds, but how has that been received? Is it's one of those things where it's like here's what I feel personally on it is a lot of people love the idea of a 30-inch and they love the idea of a stand-on mower, and they kind of want it. They kind of want to jump in, but a lot of the time they just sort of hold themselves back a little bit. Is that what's going on with this, or are people throwing themselves at it? You know,
So demand for that product is still strong. We sell more 21s than we do 30s, but
yeah, of course,
the 30s developed a bit. So there's another development going on with it at the moment. It's a heavy machine. So yeah, you're right. People go, oh, 30 deck, great, that'll save me a heap of time. You get behind it, it's a beast of a machine, and you try and lift it out of the trailer. They're big, heavy, chunky machines. Initially, they came out with fixed wheels on the front. Scag's now putting casters on them, and that's as an option. That's all we bring in now. Yeah, they're a beast. You have to run to keep up with the thing. It's a powerful, big, heavy machine. So I think a lot of people, once they see it in a store, maybe once they try having a mow with it, they think, well, actually, it's not for me. Maybe a more nimble, smaller walk behind and some sort of ride on or stand is a better solution.
Mix, yeah.
But some people love them. We've got people that have got 2 or 3 of them in their fleet, and they love them. So it's not for everyone, but I encourage anyone that's interested, go into one of our dealers and have a look at it, have a chat to them, see if they can recommend somebody. Dealers, we're open to, sharing details of other customers, good, bad, or different, that have used the 30 or the 21. And, as we said before, it's a good little community, and I'm sure you'll get some open and honest feedback. And they may even let you have a try. I know there's lots of contractors around, so if you want to have a go, come around, take it for a couple of hours, have a mow with it and see what you think.
I think it'll be interesting, but I also think part of the reason why people are hesitant for a 30, whatever brand it is the trailer space problem that a lot of contractors have. They may love the idea of having another mower, and they could probably have a lot of use for it. But if you start putting too many mowers on, you now have to upgrade your trailer, and it's harder to drive around. And maybe you're even in a van or something like that, and you've got less space. So I think a lot of people, they do love the idea of it, and it's not even the cost that's prohibitive. It's just modifying a trailer,
it's definitely a trailer machine.
I get.
Yeah, it's not one you can just lift into the back of your ute or your boot.
Of the Hyundai Excel. It probably weighs more than the Hyundai itself.
It probably would, and worth more. No, it's a trailer machine. You need ramps, and you need a trailer or a ute that you can drive it onto, because it's a serious commercial self-propelled machine.
We've talked briefly about the sprayer already. There is a 52 or 48-inch version that we
in the sprayer spreader. The bigger, look, it's a 60 gallons, so it's twice as big as the new one that's coming out. I think it might even be a 52 chassis that it's built off. But
all right, so now let's go into the aerators. It's another thing I think is fantastic as an option. We haven't had another brand. Many brands that have got these stand-on aerators. Now, I know there's one here in WA that a certain friend of the channel, James Cox, has bought. So there you go. There's your shout-out, James, for listening to the podcast. Is there any others that have been sold yet? I'm sure there might be a couple, but they're that new that they're pretty. They might be pretty rare at the moment.
They are. They're brand new. So James took the first one. Thanks, James. That came into the country with a couple of others. Would have been September, not long ago.
No, not long.
We've got a couple more here available in stock, and there's another one that we're got with some dealers up in New South Wales at the moment, just being trialled or demoed. Yeah, look, it's a new space for us. It's another complementary product that Scag's brought in. It's for serious aerating. You're not going to do your little 10 by 10 backyard with it, but if you're doing a school, some sort of other park, garden, resort, retirement village, you name it, somewhere that has got a bit of size to it, that you want to get serious about, having a good lawn, it's ideal because you stand on the back of it, you putt along, and away you go. It's I'd be interested in the feedback. I have spoken to a couple of people that used it early days, but it seems like a great machine. But again, it's probably not a machine you're going to pull out every day and use. But there's certainly going to be a need for it. It's a complementary thing, and we think it's nice to have again in the Scag stable of products.
There are some people who specialize in lawn renovations, and they would absolutely want to use this every day. But again, it's not a huge market. It's not everybody in the industry who's doing that. What's the price point on these? It's 30-inch for those who are listening, and it looks beefy. Big 23 horsepower motor.
Yes, the Aerator, it's 30-inch wide, so they're 23 grand plus GST. So
well, that's right in the ballpark of where the competitors are for that as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, and again, people will go, well, that's very expensive, but it depends on what you're getting as a return on investment for it, and it's probably not for everybody, but for the people who do this kind of work, a 30-inch compared to a walk behind, much faster.
Yeah, look, it's interesting. I was talking to BJ the other week about it. He did some aerating, which you may have seen on LMCA. Poor fellow was a little bit tired and emotional by the end of the week because it's a big guy, a lot of work, and he didn't use the Scag. He borrowed, he hired something else. But the conversation I had with him was about the job that it does. Now, the job that it does is the job that it does. They all do a pretty good job, I suspect. But it's what you can pass on to the client. If you're a contractor out there and you're saying, look, I'm going to aerate your place for a week, plus, clean up, so on and so forth, other products that you need to use, you're talking thousands of dollars. It's not a couple $100 job. So when you start doing those sorts of jobs, then 23 grand for the purchase of a machine such as this starts to make sense, starts to add up. Again, you can finance it, you can choose not to, but when you're getting those opportunities and you are charging thousands for a job, then it's the right machine. And for BJ, it probably would have cut his time in half or quicker.
Easily.
It would have cut what would have been a 5-day job down to probably 2, and saved his ass walking up and down. So the vibration you get through a walk behind one. The wear and tear on your body. This is a nice, comfortable, easy way to do it. As you say, those that specialise in it, it's the ideal machine.
So we're talking about we'll talk about, because you've got the Bluebird range as well, but there's a Billy Goat aerator. I have that Billy Goat aerator. I've had it for many years, and I have aerated 2 ovals with Billy Goats before. It's one of those things I've been wanting to. I will be wanting to buy a stand-on for a long time, but I don't do that much large acreage stuff that the cost wasn't justifiable for me. It's been one of those things. I've been on the verge of buying one many times. Like every start of September, I go, come on, we got so many aeration jobs to make it. But it's just that most of our residential jobs, our average size is probably around 100 square meters. So it's just not the machine for that. So we'll cop it to do an oval for a day, but it's just, if you're doing that kind of work, and those aerators now, the Billy Goats are 8,500 or something in that ballpark range. So when you're talking 2.5 times the cost, or thereabouts, a little bit less than 2.5 times the cost. But I know from experience that the stand-on style of aerator, having seen a different brand's one in action, significantly faster. 4, maybe 5 times as fast on an open area. So an oval that would take me a day, say 6 hours behind, would take one of these stand-on varieties an hour and a half, maybe even less to do. So it's, again, if you're doing a lot of that work, and I think there's a lot of guys out there who might go and buy, say they go buy the V-Route XL, right, and they're doing that commercial type. To have those upsells, you don't need that many upsells once you've financed it to pay off your finance every year, and then the rest of it's just money in the bank. It's just a good option, not for everybody, but it is a great option.
Absolutely.
Especially if you have all the money in the world, get all the tools, and then you can aerate it, spray it. The turf storm there. Now, one of the things I think this is the most niche product, I reckon, but the wind storm It is. It looks
Windstorm.
like it's a. I don't
It's a
know.
beast.
It's the
one here
craziest
behind me
looking thing
in
out
the
there. It's got
showroom.
a massive. For those who are listening, there is. If you know what a turbocharger looks like, it's essentially a massive turbocharger, the size of a small child, right, or a large dog on the front of a V-Ride chassis. By the looks of things, what's this for?
Yes. It's a blower. It's a debris blower, really. In the US, it's been created mostly for the markets in the autumns, blowing leaves and things. But it'll blow anything. We sold one recently down here to a tree business that does tree lopping and ends up with a whole mess over the side of the road. And needs to be able to clean it up quickly. They were either using petrol backpack blowers, or they even had I forgot what brand it was. Might have been a Toro blower mounted on the back of the ute. But with this thing, they can just chuck a bloke on it, and he burns along and blows everything well and truly back off the road. So it's a blower. It's a debris blower. Google it, have a look at it. Have a look at our website, some of the footage, some of the YouTube footage that's around on it. It's a beast of a machine. We've sold quite a few, and there's a few over in Perth. There's a few everywhere, but most recent one went into a golf course.
Yes, I was about to say.
Thing. Yeah, they want to run along, and that's one of the reasonably larger, well-known golf courses here in Melbourne. They got a lot of trees that overhang their fairways. They have a guy run along in the mornings with it, not all times of the year, but certainly during the autumn periods, and just blows everything back straight off the fairway. All your leaves, sticks, everything. Yes. Into the rough. Yeah,
because that's
and you can zip along on it. Over the ground speed's about 17 or 18 k an hour. So you fly along on this thing with it pumped up, fully blowing, and it's getting a remarkable result.
So this is the thing I've seen these used in. Not I've seen the trailer mounted ones. I haven't seen a stand-on one before. Does anybody else sell a stand-on one? Not in Australia. I wouldn't think.
Not that I've seen in Australia. No.
So
I've got a very similar one, but it's as you say, it's mounted on other things, back attractors and that sort of thing.
Yeah, so not as efficient and nimble as a stand-on. But the thing I've heard about these style of massive blowers being used for is when you have on golf courses who use cylinder mowers, they often drop the clippings, right?
Yep.
And the cylinder mower, if you're cutting a lawn every day, the clippings are tiny and doesn't affect the way the golf gets played. But if you do get a lot of leaves and honky nuts and sticks and whatever, it doesn't mulch them like a rotary mower would mulch them. And it does affect the play. So a lot of golf courses may be interested in this. Do you know what the ballpark price is for this machine? It might be on here, wouldn't it? On the website?
Yeah, here we go. 21,200 plus GST.
There you go. Now,
it's a pretty good machine. There are people that like this tree guy and these golf courses that use it nearly every day. Yeah, so you can, if you've got the right business for it, then you can get payback pretty quickly on them.
Well, my thing that I like about it is that, yes, these more specialty products are finally making their way to Australia. I do have one criticism of a missed opportunity with it, which is just lighthearted fun, to be honest. But you've got your cheetah, your turf tiger, you got your jackal. You could have called this the wolf and there's the big bad wolf that can blow your house down, right? I mean, come on, you had a great opportunity there.
I'm not entirely sure who it is at Scag that comes up with the names, but there's certainly a good Republican company, the Liberty, Freedom, Patriot, very American, but they're getting into animals and perhaps a missed opportunity. The jackal's one they're taking up, but the windstorm, it doesn't quite have
it makes sense, but come on, it would have been a nice joke. I don't know if you know that with Tesla, they've named their models S, E, X, and Y. Well, 3, because they were sued by Ford because they weren't allowed to use the Model E because that's a Ford product from the 1910s or something stupid. But because they just wanted to spell the word sexy. Like, that's the kind of stuff. It's good fun. People get chatting about. So, I mean, you could have called it the big bad wolf, but whatever. Missed opportunity, guys.
I'll pass that up. Yeah, there might be a new version coming out. At some point, we can look at something different.
Now, one more thing. We do have electric Liberty out here. And tell us about this. Is this something, EVZ, it looks like it's Liberty.
We've got it
framing. Is
available.
that
We
what
actually,
am I understanding?
we actually haven't. Yeah, it is. So it's a Vanguard engine. It's on the Liberty 36. We actually haven't imported any into the country as yet. Reason being is we do see the demand for it, but
Yep.
we're holding off as much as we possibly can. Sorry, it's a 52 Liberty.
Yep.
We're holding back. Slow adopters of this sort of thing. We see the market. We see the opportunity. There'll be a time where a lot of the Scag fleet will be electric, but my view is the longer we can wait to get in that space, the better. Purely from a development perspective, secondary from a cost perspective, they're still very expensive. So I can give you a price on one. A Liberty 52's near on just over 30 grand plus GST. A standard 52 with a petrol is 10,600. So it's 3 times the dollar value. Now, sure, you don't have to buy petrol again, but you got to charge it. And feedback from some of the other distributors around the world who are using them and do import them is that they're just not the same. So, you get on a Liberty 52 petrol version, away you go. It's a great mower, gives you a great result. It's comfortable to ride, goes all day. Got to fill it up with petrol every 3 to 4 hours, but it's a great mower.
Yep.
The battery-powered electric version is just not the same mower. And
how long does it last?
Well, depending on what you cut. So
of course.
I don't think you ever get a clear answer out of
no, we don't. But people can't. They try and give a ballpark, but let's say maintenance cut, normal maintenance cut, and just give us a range because it's just interesting. Obviously, people, they want to know if they can cut their yard with it, basically.
Yeah. Oh, look, you're supposed to get 8 hours out of it as a normal maintenance cut, so you should get a full day's mowing.
Yeah, at least.
Speaking to the importer over in New Zealand have done a few, and also the blokes in the US down south in Florida do quite a few down there. They're getting anywhere between 8 and 4 hours for really heavy going, hard stuff, wet grass. But it's not the same cut. It's anyone that's used this type of equipment will know, you can't at the moment. It doesn't match petrol in terms of the quality of the cut or any sort of fuel, even the diesel. But it'll get there. It's going to happen. There's no doubt about it. Like there may be a time where the whole fleet's battery powered. Who knows? We'll just wait and see.
Yeah. I think it's interesting because you get some brands that we've had on, and the people that we've seen these episodes because they've already come out. This is one of the last ones that we're recording. Yep. These other brands that have come out have gone full all in on this new technology, and the famous moment at Equip Expo last year where the DeWalt set on fire. And I feel bad for DeWalt, and the human beings who developed that were probably very embarrassed, and they were doing their best, but you got a deadline to get to that event, but it does make people nervous about things setting on fire, or is it that good, and the runtime and the heat of the batteries, and there is this what's the word? There is this curiosity about the electric stuff, but for those in the market who are contractors, who are worried about it, I think they will take like your mentality towards it. They will have a similar viewpoint where they want to be slow and considered, and not jump in 2 feet on something if they're not 100% sure if it's right for them.
Yeah. And look, our view was that we will meet the market with this. So we're not seeing, particularly from the Scag community, family as we call it, demand for it. Have we lost deals because we haven't got it? Probably. There's some dealers we talk to that work closely with their local municipal councils and shires who are going battery. So in those instances where they're tendering for those opportunities, we can't put a Scag forward. So are we missing opportunities? Yeah, we are. But we're not seeing a cry out from our people to say, get it for me. I really want it, which is what we've seen with some of the self-propelleds, some of the other special products. The sprayer spreader, the aerator. We had people from the Scag family saying, I want this product. We're not seeing it on the battery yet. Maybe different in 6 months. It'll certainly be different in 12 to 24 months. But the the benefit that gives us as an importer and distributor is the development, and the cost will get better as well. So, another 12 months in this space, if you think about 12 months ago, where it's come from and where it's going to be in another 12 months will be significant. So I sit here now thinking this time next year, we'll have 1 or 2 or 3 in the range, and it'll be a Liberty to start with. And the second machine that's in development at the moment is a 52 V-Ride. So, yeah, watch this space. Hold your breath. It won't be too long.
Well, mate, we've just about covered everything that you've got. Do you have anything in your pockets or anything you want to talk about?
No, I don't have anything else. Scag, as people who follow the product may know, are big into drag racing in the US. They sponsor the National Top Fuel Series.
Yeah, right.
So they're not about to come out with a drag car, I don't think. But
a jet-powered mower, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, perhaps. Yeah, no, a lot of people ask me about Scag in Australia and drag racing. We don't really have the community here or the following. But
it's not the same. Yeah, it's not the same kind of thing here.
It's not. So development. Look, there won't be a Scag drag car out in Australia in the foreseeable future, but you never know.
Well, I'll tell you what, mate. If you were going to put a jet on something, you'd be on that wind blower. The next upgraded, and you can call that the big bad wolf with a jet engine on the front of it. Although, can you imagine? Yeah. Can you imagine trying to drive that thing and the jet engine's putting at 90 degrees? You just spin around in circles. You wouldn't be able to drive straight at all. Oh, well,
I'm sure some of our Scag followers would love it.
The workers' comp insurance wouldn't cover you for it, I'm sure.
No, that's
all right, mate. Well, thank you so much for coming on. How do people find Scag? You got dealers around the place. Where do they go if they want to find
so Scag, the best place to go is scagaustralia.com.au. That's our website. We host that here out of Australia. We're interested in your feedback. If you've got things you want added to it, let us know. But on there's a dealer locator. So you go in there, you punch in your postcode, and that will bring you to your local Scag dealer. So go in and see them. There's 80 around the country. We're building on that number. So just keep your eye on that locator.